If you hear about the 60s music and you hear about New York, you probably heard the term the Brill Building. Well, it wasn't really just the Brill Building. The Brill Building was a building, a beautiful building, 1619 Broadway. But the three most important buildings in that era were the Brill Building, had Lieber and Stoller, Barry Mann, Cynthia Weil, and right around the corner was where I worked, and where a whole bunch of people came out of, including Neil Diamond, and Jimi Hendrix was upstairs for a while. And that was my building, 1650 Broadway, and then there was Screen Gems down the corner that had Carol Kane and Jerry Goffin and those folks. So when you hear the Brill Building era, it was those three buildings that were the most important and housed all the great songwriters. And in between my building and Screen Gems, there was a corner where stood a guy that was about 6'7", and he stood there every day. He wore a Viking outfit. I didn't know what the hell he was doing, but he was there every day for years. And it turned out later on, he was called Moondog, and he wrote some poetry, and he wrote some great stuff. So I'll take you back to the days when I was getting all that special inspiration from all those wonderful folks around. It was different, because it was really kind of a poppy show business time before the anarchy of rock and roll, and it was a wonderful anarchy. Where were you when the sun came up? And it never felt more like shining. Moondog howling on Broadway. Man, you felt so a part of something. Silly words and foolish rhymes had no place in rebel time. It was feeling after feeling, and the words were just reflections of the power of rejection and the passion of the times. Couldn't we use some of that now? Couldn't we use some of that? Those were days to remember. Couldn't we use some of that now?
We were light-skinned, we were dark. We had everything in common. We were there to light a spark. Sing one song and make it happen.
Silly words and foolish rhymes had no place in our design. It was feeling after feeling, and the words were just reflections of the power of objection and the passion of the time. Couldn't we use some of that now? Couldn't we use some of that now? Oh, those were days to remember. Couldn't we use some of that now?
Mississippi burning. I guess the prayer was still the same, but the song just needs